My name is Alex, and for the past 2 years, I've been part of the strange silence of Highway I-15. My job is the night shift clerk at the Roadside Oasis gas station, a name far too fancy for an old, lonely stop lost between two towns more than 50 miles apart. My shift starts at 11 p.m. and ends at 7 a.m. This is the time when the world seems to go into hibernation. Tonight, everything is as quiet as usual. It's 2 a.m. The weak bluish-white neon light of the gas station is the only bright spot along a long stretch of the empty highway. Outside, the air is bone-chilling, and the wind whistling through the eaves creates a sad, steady tune. I stand behind the counter, leaning against the cigarette cabinet, sipping my third cup of coffee, and trying to finish the last chapter of the sci-fi novel I've been reading. Working the night shift here teaches you a lot. It teaches you to appreciate silence, but it also teaches you the fear of solitude. Most customers at this hour are tired truckers, rushing college students, or night workers like me. They all want to fuel up, grab coffee, and get back on the road. Transactions are quick, with few words exchanged. However, there's one unspoken rule every night shift worker must follow. Always pay attention to anything unusual. I've installed an old security camera system and check it regularly. The automatic lock engages after 1 a.m., only opening when a customer rings the bell. It's the only safety measure the gas station owner was willing to provide, aside from an old landline phone and a panic button under the counter, which I've always doubted actually works. Tonight, I was lost in my story when the sound of the door chime suddenly cut through the quiet. Ding! I put the book down and glanced quickly at the camera screen. A dark gray, old sedan had just stopped at one of the fuel pumps outside. Strangely, the customer didn't refuel. The car just sat there, and the driver immediately stepped out. I looked out the window. The man was large, wearing a thick jacket and a beanie pulled low over his forehead. Nothing about his appearance was particularly remarkable, but the way he moved was too hurried and tense for a typical driver. He glanced around the parking lot and the empty grassy field nearby, scanning rather than simply looking. The man walked quickly toward the door. I pressed the unlock button and prepared for a quick transaction. The automatic sliding door opened with a soft chime, revealing the tall figure of the man, and he stepped inside without removing his beanie or heavy coat, bringing a blast of icy air into the small, warm shop. The first thing that caught my attention was that he did not head straight for the snack aisle or the refrigerated drinks, places most late-night customers usually go. He stood still by the entrance, his eyes quickly sweeping the store. His gaze did not focus on the shelves or display cases. It scanned every dark corner, every crevice, and particularly the area behind the counter where I was standing. That look was fast, sharp, like a scanner mapping the terrain. I smiled as friendly as I could, a futile effort to ease the sudden tension in the air. "Early morning. Can I help you with anything?" I asked, my voice steady, placing my hand on the counter, but keeping a safe distance. The man did not answer immediately. He kept his probing stare. His face was partially obscured by the shadow of his hat, and the weak neon light was not enough for me to make out any clear features, except for a scruffy goatee. After a few uncomfortable seconds of silence, he stepped forward. He walked straight toward my counter, not like someone intending to shop, but like someone trying to close the distance for a private exchange. I instinctively took half a step back, placing my hand closer to the panic button. He leaned forward slightly, forcing me to strain to hear. "No help needed," he said. His voice was low, hoarse, and decisive, but it was not the voice of someone politely saying, "No, thank you." It carried a strange tone of certainty and warning, as if he were telling me that in this situation help was unnecessary, or worse, that my help was not wanted. "Oh, okay," I replied, trying to keep my voice normal. "Do you want gas? Which pump do you need me to turn on?" "No, I just need a bit of air." "A bit of air?" In the middle of this freezing winter night, he pulled over on the highway just to breathe air at an old gas station, without refueling or buying a drink? That made no sense at all. He shifted his gaze once more. This time it settled on the restroom door at the back of the store, then returned to me, and it seemed he had completed his assessment. Without another word, the man turned his back and walked straight out. His steps were decisive and quick. I watched him through the glass door. He did not stop at any pump, He walked straight to his dark gray sedan, opened the door, climbed inside, and the car drove off immediately. No gas, no purchase, no restroom use. Just entering, surveying intensely, saying a cryptic sentence, and leaving immediately. I checked the time on the security camera. The entire encounter lasted less than 2 minutes. I leaned against the counter, feeling a shiver unrelated to the cold outside. It was a creepy sensation, an inner certainty that the man was not an ordinary customer. He was not a lost driver. He was someone surveying a location. I opened the logbook under the counter, used a pen to write down his license plate and the time the incident occurred. Although I tried to reassure myself that he was merely an eccentric or a drunk, my intuition told me I had just experienced something more serious. After recording the gray car's license plate and the exact time of the incident, I sat back in my chair, trying to analyze the situation rationally. The shop sank back into silence. But for me, it had been completely shattered. My focus on the book had disappeared, replaced by a string of questions echoing endlessly in my head. I reviewed the short video on the surveillance screen. The man had shown no sign that he was a legitimate customer. He didn't look at the gas prices, didn't examine the snacks, and didn't bother to queue. His sole purpose was to come in, check the layout of the store, and especially assess my position, the only night shift employee. "What is he doing?" I muttered. "He's scouting." My intuition, honed after 2 years of working alone at night, screamed a red alert. This wasn't a madman, but a man with a plan, and at a deserted gas station at 2 a.m., that plan usually meant only one thing: robbery. I began to build scenarios in my head. This man was a scout, coming to recon the situation. He needed to know how many people there were, escape routes, and camera locations. Once he had enough information, he'd come back with accomplices. I glanced at the cash register. There wasn't much cash. We'd implemented a policy of putting money in the safe every hour to limit risk, but that's something a passing robber wouldn't know. My worry wasn't only about money. An armed robbery always brought the threat of violence, and I was the only one here. I stood up and walked around the counter. I checked the door to the storeroom and the restroom. They were locked. I made sure I could easily reach the old baseball bat I kept under the counter. The owner didn't allow weapons, but I felt entitled to defend myself. While moving around, I looked outside. Snow had begun to fall lightly, not enough to make a storm, but enough to make everything gloomier and quieter. I looked toward the highway, empty. Any help would take at least 15 minutes to arrive. I checked the video again and zoomed in on the man's face right before he turned away. Although obscured, the way he looked directly at the camera, then turned away without haste, sent chills down my spine. He knew he was being recorded, and he seemed not to care. This made my scenario worse. If he knew he was on camera yet acted boldly, that meant he wasn't afraid of being caught, or he intended to do something so horrific that he no longer worried about being identified. The feeling of unease reached its peak. Even if it was just intuition, ignoring it could cost lives, and I could not accept that risk. I won't allow myself to be paralyzed by fear. If there's one thing the night job has taught me, it's to always be proactive. Even if the chance of him coming back is only 1%, I don't want to regret not acting. I know full well that when the police arrive, they may think I'm paranoid, but I'd rather be ridiculed than become a victim. I quickly picked up the landline under the counter. My hand trembled slightly, but I tried to keep my voice calm and clear as I dialed the county police emergency number. 911. What emergency do you need? The voice of a female operator answered. Hello, ma'am. I'm Alex, the night shift clerk at the Roadside Oasis gas station on I-15, about 5 miles from exit 45. I don't need emergency assistance right now, but I need to report a suspicious situation and request a precautionary check. I took a deep breath and began to describe the incident, keeping everything objective and in order. About 15 minutes ago, at 2:05 a.m., a suspicious man entered the store. He didn't refuel, didn't buy anything. He just walked straight in, scanned the store, especially the cashier area and the storeroom. He refused any assistance and left immediately. His behavior matched that of a scouting mission preparing for a robbery. The operator, named Sarah by her voice, sounded professional and carefully took notes. Yes, I've recorded that. Do you have any description of the person or the vehicle? I read aloud the notes I had just written. He is a tall man, large build, wearing a thick winter coat, a dark beanie pulled low over his face with a scruffy goatee. The car is an older model sedan, dark gray, and this is the license plate I recorded, 4B8XGZ, temporarily. Thank you, Alex. We'll send a patrol car to check your area within a few minutes. Can we call you back? Yes, call this landline, but please don't use sirens or lights when approaching. If they're nearby, I don't want to alert them. Understood. Stay safe and call back immediately if the situation escalates, Alex. After hanging up, I felt a bit relieved, but the anxiety remained. I looked at the clock. 2:25 a.m. The police car would probably arrive in about 10 minutes. I used the waiting time to prepare defenses. I pulled the empty cardboard box from the back out, placed the baseball bat under the counter in the easiest position to grab. I checked the front door again to ensure it had locked automatically after the man left. I even turned off one row of neon lights in the store to create more darkness, making it harder for anyone looking in from outside to see what I was doing. I told myself, just wait 10 more minutes. The police will arrive. Everything will be fine. I kept my eyes glued to the small surveillance monitor showing the highway and the parking lot. I stared into the dark where the dark gray sedan had disappeared. 4 minutes passed in tense silence. And then I saw it. A small black dot appeared in the distance on I-15, moving toward the gas station. As it got closer, its headlights swept across the rows of trees by the roadside. It was the dark gray sedan. It had returned. A wave of terror rose inside me as I saw the gray sedan return. It was no longer a vague intuition. This was a tangible, specific threat. My fear had solidified into a cold reality. The car slowed down and didn't pull up to the gas pumps. Instead, it crawled across the empty parking lot and stopped in a corner, right at the edge of the lot, partially hidden behind a large pole and an industrial trash bin. From there, the view into the store was perfect, but from inside, the line of sight outward was obstructed. I quickly backed away from the counter, crouched behind the magazine rack, and looked through the surveillance monitor. I zoomed in on the car, and I realized something was different. Last time, there had only been one driver. This time, inside the dark sedan, there were two figures. The car sat motionless. Neither of them opened the doors. They didn't make any move to refuel, buy something, or even relax. They just sat there, silent and still, like two statues cloaked in darkness. The interior lights were off, making it impossible to see their faces, but I could feel their eyes locked on the gas station building. They were waiting. Maybe waiting for me to drop my guard, waiting for the patrol car to pass by, or waiting for some kind of signal. The camera screen had become a window into my nightmare. I stared at the gray car, feeling as if those two were staring straight through the lens, directly into my mind. The chill inside the store intensified. Not from temperature, but from the quiet, sinister presence of those figures. They weren't acting aggressively, but their patience was far more terrifying than any violent act could be. It showed they had time, confidence, and certainty in whatever they were about to do. I gripped the baseball bat beneath the counter. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it thudding in my ears. Just 5 more minutes, Alex. The police are on their way. I didn't dare move, didn't dare turn on another light. I just stood there, swallowed by the dark and the fear, trapped in a dreadful waiting game set by two strangers. 2 minutes passed. The car remained a motionless shadow. The night engulfed everything, and I was the only prey left in their sight. I stood behind the counter, pressed against the wall, my hand resting on the baseball bat. The helplessness and fear were hardening into sharp focus. I had locked the doors, and although the front glass wasn't bulletproof, it at least added a few seconds of protection. The two figures inside the gray sedan still didn't move. I pictured the scene in my mind. They'd open the car doors, step out, one with a gun, the other with something to break through the entrance. They'd smash the glass, or if they had tools, they could override the automatic lock. Within a minute, they could be right here, behind this very counter. My eyes were fixed on the security monitor. I told myself, as long as they don't step out, I still have a chance. Time dragged so slowly, I began to doubt the police's timing. How many minutes had passed? 4, 5, or 15? And then, just as despair started to creep in, I saw it. Far off on I-15, a pair of headlights appeared. Not the cold white glow of the sedan, but the bright, familiar beams of a large truck. But that wasn't what I was waiting for. Seconds later, behind the truck, another light appeared, a faint blue flash flickering in and out of sight. The patrol car was coming, with its red lights off to avoid drawing attention, just as I'd requested. My heart pounded wildly, but this time from hope. The black and white patrol car exited the highway and turned onto the road leading to the gas station. The driver was cautious, no siren, no sudden acceleration. They were making a stealth approach. The gray sedan still hadn't noticed the police. The two figures inside remained motionless, still staring at the gas station. They were so focused on their target that they missed any movement unrelated to the store. The patrol car crept past the fuel pumps, then suddenly swerved, blocking the sedan head-on. In that instant, headlights and flashers blazed to life, blue and red flooding the lot. Both patrol doors swung open at once. Two officers in black uniforms stepped out, handguns drawn and aimed directly at the gray sedan. "Police! Hands up! Step out of the vehicle now!" The amplified voice tore through the silence, firm and commanding. Finally, the two figures in the sedan moved, jerking, panicked. I saw the man who had come into the store. I recognized his beanie, reaching for the gear shift, probably trying to escape. But the patrol car had already blocked the only way out. The other man, the one I hadn't seen before, raised an arm to shield his eyes from the blinding light. The officers repeated their orders, leaving no room for defiance. The gray sedan's doors opened slowly. The two men lifted their hands and stepped out. Officer Donovan, the one I recognized by his voice over the radio, approached and handcuffed the man in the beanie. From the safety of my booth, I loosened my grip on the baseball bat and let out a long, trembling breath. I was safe. From inside the store, I watched the entire arrest unfold. The two men were handcuffed and escorted out of the parking lot. The officers moved with professionalism and precision. After ensuring both suspects were secured, one officer approached the glass door and knocked, signaling for me to come outside. I unlocked it and stepped out, breathing in the freezing but clean air. Officer Donovan's face was grave. "Alex, you did a great job. Thanks to your alertness and accurate description, we were able to act in time," he said. "Would you allow us to search this vehicle? We need evidence to charge them." "Of course," I replied. "I have a feeling they weren't planning just a petty robbery." Donovan signaled to the other officer, who moved toward the gray sedan. The car looked old and ordinary, but now it radiated a cold, dangerous aura. The officer began searching the interior. After checking the front and back seats, he reported over the radio that there was nothing notable besides some stale fast food and a crumpled local map. "Open the trunk," Donovan ordered the beanie-wearing man standing nearby in handcuffs. When the suspect refused, Donovan immediately requested an emergency search warrant. Just a few minutes later, once authorization was confirmed over the radio, the officer proceeded to open the trunk. The chill ran down my spine the moment it lifted. The trunk held no spare tire or luggage. It contained a neatly arranged collection of disturbing items. Donovan and the other officer bent over to look. I, standing at a safe distance, tried to peer over their shoulders. The beam from the police flashlight revealed each item clearly. A crowbar and a small sledgehammer. Not ordinary tools, but ones used for breaking in or assaulting, wrapped in an old cloth to muffle sound. A thick hemp rope, far too sturdy for tying down cargo, clearly meant to restrain someone. Two large rolls of duct tape, one silver and one black, commonly used to gag or bind. Several pairs of rubber gloves and fabric masks, new, unused, clearly meant to conceal identity and avoid leaving fingerprints. Most alarming of all, an old handkerchief wrapped around a small caliber handgun. "Weapon!" Donovan shouted, instructing the officer to secure it carefully. I took a deep breath. Those weren't the tools of ordinary thieves. Gas station robbers only needed a gun to threaten. They didn't need rope, duct tape, or rubber gloves. These were the instruments of a kidnapping, or something far worse. I looked at the two suspects in handcuffs. They stood with their heads down, their earlier cold arrogance completely gone. The beanie-wearing man's face had collapsed into defeat. Officer Donovan turned toward me, his face pale in the flashing patrol lights. "Alex," he said quietly, "you didn't just stop a robbery. You might have saved your own life, and maybe the lives of others too. These men, they were preparing for something much worse." The relief I'd felt moments before evaporated instantly, replaced by a chilling realization of just how close I had come to something truly horrific. Officer Donovan signaled for me to return inside the gas station while they finished sealing the trunk and loading the two suspects into the patrol car. I stepped through the sliding door, and though the warm air inside wrapped around me, it couldn't melt the cold spreading through my body. I leaned against the counter, staring out the glass front where the red and blue lights of the police car flashed over the snowy night. The two men, now handcuffed, were no longer lurking shadows. They were just human beings facing the consequences of their actions. Yet the truth of what they had prepared still sent a chill down my spine. Donovan returned after everything was secured. He brought a steaming cup of coffee from the machine and placed it on the counter in front of me. "Drink, Alex. You've earned a break," he said, his tone softening from professional to compassionate. "You saved our night, and maybe much more than that." I took a sip, feeling the warmth spread down my throat. "Who are they, Sergeant?" "We're checking," he replied. "The license plate matches a report we had. The car's registered in another state and hasn't been reported stolen. But when we ran their IDs, we found serious criminal records across several western states: kidnapping, assault. They're not just robbers." Donovan paused, locking eyes with me. "With what we found in that trunk, the handgun, the rope, the duct tape, the tools, it's clear their target wasn't the cash register. This station is in an ideal spot, isolated, low traffic at night. They likely chose this place because you were the only one here." I swallowed hard. There was no doubt left. The scenario I'd imagined, a simple robbery, had been naive. Their goal had been to harm me or to abduct me for something far darker. I remembered the hollow smile of the man standing at the doorway. He hadn't been hesitant. He'd been calculating, assessing how easy his prey would be. His words, "Don't need help," now carried an entirely new and horrifying meaning. He didn't need my help because he already had a plan for me. This arrest wasn't just a matter of police intervention. It was the result of vigilance. In the days that followed, news about the two suspects spread across local media. They were brothers, fugitives from several western states, suspected of multiple kidnappings and violent assaults. My gas station had simply been a random stop, one they chose to find their next victim, to satisfy intentions darker than theft. I was praised as a quiet hero. The station owner rewarded me with a generous bonus, and finally installed bulletproof glass and a modern alarm system. But the title of hero couldn't dispel the chill inside me. I hadn't saved myself with strength or weapons, but through instinct and fear. Through a single decision made in the fragile window of time between the scout's visit and the partner's return. If I had waited 5 more minutes, or brushed off my suspicion as paranoia, things would have ended very differently. I could never look at the Roadside Oasis the same way again. Every car pulling in at night, every silhouette stepping through the door, carried the ghost of doubt. I kept working night shifts for a while, but now, whenever the door chime rang, I no longer sipped coffee and read. I stood upright, hand close to the new alarm button, eyes locked on the security monitor. I had seen the fragile line between ordinary life and violent crime, thin as black ice on the highway. And sometimes, it's held together only by a cautious phone call and the intuition of a lone gas station clerk at 2 a.m. Though both suspects were caught and justice awaited them, for me, the story never truly ended. The gray sedan, the silent figures, and the image of the rope in the trunk remain as scars that will never fade from a night when I stood on the edge of where hell nearly reached out. Tonight's story ends here. If you have a real horror story, send it to DarkWhispers Audio. Let's share the fear together. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next whisper might come sooner than you think.